Welcome to the Essential Alchemy Podcast with your host, Jodi Cohen.
Hello, I'm Jodi Cohen, your host, and I'm so honored to be joined with by someone I've admired probably my whole adult life. Dr. Christiane Northrup is literally a visionary pioneer in women's health, a board-certified OBGYN, a New York Times best-selling author of Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, the original book that we all read cover to cover, The Wisdom of Menopause and Goddesses Never Age. She also is in such integrity. In 2022, she was one of 6 women to receive the Zelenko Foundation Rosa Parks Award and honored for standing up for truth, God, and justice against the odds, smears, obstacles, and censorship. And she continues to inspire and awaken humanity through live events, her website, drnorthrup.com, her amazing social media presence, and her wonderful products, personal care products, Amada Life. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Northrup.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Those of us who were on the frequency way back, I always like to circle back because we all found each other through this experience because we both had the the mind-blowing thing of having our communities lose their minds overnight. Like, I never said anything different than I ever have said. I didn't suddenly come out as a whatever I've been called. It was consistent, like you said.
Yeah.
So it wasn't me that changed. It's like
Yeah.
RFK says, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. It was kind of like that. Yeah.
You know, it's really funny. In what year was it? Like 1992. I used to run on the mall, and I got to run with Bill Clinton, and it was on the news. And my mom found it, and my brother-in-law just digitized it. And the dog was at the end, so I was watching the news clip, and
Yeah.
it was all about everything that was going on in 1992, and just how centrist Bill Clinton was, like
Very.
how moderate, how reasonable. And I was like, wow, the world has changed. It's just interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, today's Republicans are yesterday's Democrats.
Well,
The
you know,
guy at
it
the Ford.
switched originally. Like
Yeah,
it keeps, anyways, it's fascinating.
yeah,
But in terms of also being an early adapter, you were writing about kind of the emotional aspect of healing with your book, Dodging Energy Vampires, early on. I
yeah.
mean, you're a board certified doctor. Talk to me about what kind of how you discovered the emotional interplay of health and what kind of led you to share that.
Well, what was happening in the 80s actually was that I was listening to women's in-depth stories. And at Women to Women, our center, we had a woman, Patricia Rice, who did in-depth, she called it therapia. And so she would do dream analysis with our patients. She would do all of this stuff. So we had a chance I would know what was going on medically. But then we would get together and she would tell me what was going on in their lives. So I would begin to ask the question when they came into the office, what is going on? So I want to give you a really specific example that blew my mind because I began to realize everything is biosymbolic. And I also at that time had the famous medical intuitive Carolyn Mace on speed dial. Literally, I could call her from my office and she would do a reading on anybody for $25. Now, what's interesting, less than 5% of my patients ever took me up on it. It's like they didn't really want to know this because it's where the rubber hits the road. But let me give you this example because it was like so God. So this woman comes in and she's got a giant cyst in her breast. And I said, so what's going on, right? Like, when did this happen? How did it happen? So she tells me that her youngest daughter, her last child, the baby, she had just dropped her off at college. And the night before the cyst appeared, she dreamt that she was breastfeeding this child. And also her cat, her 20-year-old cat, had died. Okay, that's the setup. I aspirate the cyst, and it was full of milk. I kid you not. She was
Wow.
postmenopausal. It was full of
Wow.
her, she was seeing symbolically her time of nurturing this babies was over. And she still had this energy to give. We all do. And she still had it, but it was, she felt that it was blocked. And also with the cat dying and the empty nest syndrome and all of that. And there it was. I've never had that happen before or since. But that is how concretely biosymbolic the body is. And when we live that way, then we've got the keys to the kingdom. So the reason that I wrote Dodging Energy Vampires is that I was noticing something. And that is that all these women with chronic Lyme, chronic fatigue, the so-called mystery illnesses, and now they'll tell you, we know about the weaponized ticks at Fort Bragg and all of that stuff, or Fort Detrick. But I'm taking ticks off my cats every night. I mean, I've seen those little deer. I'm not worried about ticks. So what was it? And then they would do all the stuff, right? They do the Anthony William celery juice, become perfect vegans, meditate, do everything. And they wouldn't get better. Now, I started to see this early on with PMS in 1982. Family Circle had a big article about PMS. Now, no doctor believed that PMS existed, but then Family Circle named it. And when we name something, then you go, oh, that's what's going on. So I became really interested in PMS because here's a normal physiologic cycle. And why is it that 70, 80, 90% of women suffer around a normal physiologic cycle? You don't see that in animals. They go into heat, but they're not, throwing things at you or whatever it is. And so what I did is I began to study PMS, and I noticed how easy it was to cure it with diet and supplements and exercise. But then I would notice that the average woman couldn't keep up the lifestyle changes for more than about 3 months. And then she'd be right back where she started. Why was that? Well, around that time, we were all learning about addiction and family systems and the dysfunctional family, and Melanie Beattie's book, and Codependent No More, and all of that. And at the time, I had a family member in an alcohol program. So I began to read all the stuff about adult children of alcoholics. But I was seeing patterns in women where there was no alcoholic. So I had all these, I'd have my list in their chart, and I'd call it ACOA-oid. They were like an adult child of an alcoholic, but there wasn't that. Well, then what happened is the Adverse Childhood Experiences study came out, and that started in UC San Diego with Vincent Felitti. And he was doing the weight loss clinic, and he overheard an 18-year-old woman say, overweight is overlooked, and that's what I need to be. And because he was noticing that these people would successfully lose weight, they were losing weight, but then it would stop. And he came to see, and this woman's history was that she had been raped. And so she just decided, all right, I'm going to pile on 100 pounds so I will be safe. And what Felitti said is the addiction, whether it is to cleaning, sex, food, running, the addiction is serving a purpose. The addiction is covering an emotion that's too hard to feel.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So it's like the weight isn't the problem.
Yeah.
The weight is the solution to the problem that the person can't figure out on their own. And therefore, you need to get to the absolute heart of it. And so I learned later on that there's this duality. It's the empath energy vampire duality. Now, it's parasitic, and you can talk about it globally or right within someone's physical body, right in their life. Everything is parasitic. So certain of us, the healers, the empaths, the ones who were taught to believe only people who were hurt in childhood hurt other people, which is the most giant lie ever perpetrated on humanity. There are people who are born bad. They're called psychopaths. And my friend, Dr. Lee Merritt, an orthopedic spine surgeon, said that in the Navy, they do psychological screening for who can stay under the polar ice cap in a submarine for 3 months. Okay. You got to really know, because if you don't know, the
Yeah.
cost of surfacing and taking off someone who's losing their mind is too great. She said there's one type they cannot test for. They can't figure it out, and that is the psychopath, the sociopath. They are chameleons. They will tell you what you want to know. They will paint a picture of the absolute blueprint of everything you've always wanted. Let's do it romantically here. They are so good at everything you've always wanted to hear. And right now, everybody, they're all over the dating apps. So they will tell you what you want to hear. Oh, let me just, since I have you, let me tell you the one area where they're going. And that is, it'll be some guy who's more handsome than usual.
Yeah.
And he will tell you that he's working on his retirement. Okay. So he's done this and that and gone all over the world, but he's working on his retirement. And what you don't know is you're his retirement, because he will tell you everything you've always wanted to hear. So if you're a single woman past the age of 50, chances are very good that relationships have been a little gnarly for you. And so then this guy comes in, they're absolute parasites, and they're masters. Masters. They can even create fake bank accounts where you go into their bank account and then you see how much money they have. And I can't even begin to get into it, but this is a sociopath. What they're interested in is this, what is called narcissistic supply. That is your money, your status, your attention, your life energy, your soul. Because this kind of person cannot create. All they can do is suck off of you. And this can be on a mild level, that you're married to a narcissist, right? Who is just not there for you. And I've counseled so many women on this. They get to like 25 years of marriage, and then that's what perimenopause does. It brings it right into your face. Like, oh, I know how to keep this marriage going, but I'm going to die if I stay in it. Okay. Like, I knew that I would get, personally, bilateral inflammatory breast cancer. It would be so fast. Why? Here's why. This is important, everybody. The difference between what you say you believe and how you live your life is the delta. That's the degree to which you'll get sick. If I had been going along, oh, I love this. I'm a little woman and I'm a member of the country club, and this is all simpatico with me. And I just love him. It doesn't matter. That would be fine. But what was I doing? I was out there in the world telling women that they needed a partnership relationship with masculine and feminine in polarity but harmony. Well, you can't tell everyone that and then live the opposite at home. And so that experience, plus then many others, led me to begin to study personality disorder. And that's about 1 in 5 people. And
Oh, that's high.
oh, it's high. 1 in 100 is a psychopath. So,
Wow.
and I have learned that the true psychopaths, the real sociopaths, those are running the Fortune 500 companies. They're the ones that are running things.
Yeah.
They don't have empathy. You can
Yeah.
see look at what just happened to the world. Social distancing. What is
Yeah.
social distancing? It's either social or it's distancing. It's not social distancing. How in the world Did circles occur in every grocery store overnight? How did that happen? And then arrows. And then how is it that suddenly my whole community, including my publishers, decided that I was off my rocker when I didn't change anything? Okay, what a personality disorder does, we give everyone, the empaths, we give everyone the benefit of the doubt, because we figure, well, here's what happens a lot, and this is funny. Whenever empaths read my book, they get all worried that they're narcissists. Okay? That's
Yeah.
how you know they're an empath.
Yeah.
No narcissist ever worries that they're a narcissist. You know what they do? They pretend they're an empath. And because they have malignant intuition,
Mhm.
they know what you want to hear. And they know what to say. They're chameleons. They're amazing. There's a podcast out there that is incredibly entertaining. Everyone should listen. It's called Dirty John. It's also a TV show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
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 I watched the show.
yeah. This is a true story, an example of someone who is really skilled. But let's be clear, narcissism is a continuum like Asperger's. So you have a kid who's we say, oh, he's a little on the spectrum, right? And then you got the 21-year-old in diapers who's banging his head against the wall and is nonverbal. That's a
Yeah.
spectrum. So
Yeah.
with personality disorders, you can live with someone who's a little self-absorbed
Yeah.
and has insight. Most of the personality disorders don't have insight, and they get angry when you call them on something. So what I want to say is most illnesses come from us leaking our creative, God-given energy toward a relationship or a job or something or a child that is not reciprocal. So what do we do? What do we do? So October, right? This is the last day of October right now, but October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Have we done a single thing to decrease the incidence of breast cancer? No. What we
Yeah.
have done,
We've increased it.
yeah, we've created an industry
Mammograms, the metal all the things that we've done actually are counterproductive. I think.
completely. So that's parasitic. But what it does is it goes, think about it. I mean, what kind of a mind thinks about this, right? You remember Angelina Jolie getting the bilateral mastectomy because she apparently had the gene, which accounts for just about nothing, by the way. But, so she comes out as, well, I'm the mother of the year here, and I don't want my kids to be without a mother because it's selfish. See, this is the deal. It's selfish for you to want to take care of yourself. It's selfish for you to want to breathe fully without a mask. It's selfish for you to want to hug. It's selfish for you to want to visit your grandkids without getting, 5 DPTs and all the rest of it.
And even what you said, like they get angry with you when you call them out on something. So basically everything you're saying is kind of coming down to your own integrity. Because in your integrity, you know what's right and wrong. And when other people are doing something that's not in integrity and you have the courage to point it out, they weaponize it, gaslight and turn it against you. And so sometimes we just decide it's easier. It's easier to just, pretend the emperor has clothes on.
It's
And then
much easier. And we just went through 4 years where you get to decide to the degree to which you were going to participate in that.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have any judgment against anybody who, because I don't know people's individual circumstance, but I will tell you this, when the shot came out, I said, oh, I will live in a tent in my backyard rather than getting that, because I knew what it was and I knew what was in there. Because as Tucker Carlson said, we don't have to be a psychologist to know that something feels off. That's all. Our bodies are a barometer to that. But if you're an empath, you're talked out of it. And so, and we are also, Ann Wilson Schaaf had a fantastic way of talking about people who will do anything to maintain a relationship, right? So she called them the pseudo relationship addiction. So they're very funny. So she goes, romance addicts, move on. Sex addicts, come on. Relationship addicts, hang on. And
Oh,
what
that's
she was
true.
talking about was, if you can't name your addiction, you can't recover from it. So when you realize that you're doing all this stuff to maintain the relationship, okay, let's say I was just talking with a person yesterday. She's got stepsons. She's realizing they're not grateful to her whatsoever, and she's paying for their Spotify premiums and a bunch of other things. Why? Because she's the stepmom and wants them to love her. So she's draining her vital financial fluids and resenting it
Mhm,
underneath. And they're being jerks
mhm.
by always defaulting to what they want while she pays for all this stuff in order so that they will love her. Who hasn't done that? I have done that. My God.
Yeah. It's really funny. I have been personally unpacking a lot of my programming. I was raised by a narcissist, and so the idea that I could have boundaries, in my mind, that makes me selfish and bad.
It's
And,
it. And that's the first place you go because that's childhood programming. So therefore, as part of the healing, you need somebody that you can call because you beat yourself up because you were beaten up for having
yes,
a boundary.
yes. And
So
the amount
it's
of things that I've
internalized.
tolerated and didn't
Right.
even think to question. I actually just let someone on my team go who really has been underperforming for over a year.
Yes.
And and they have, it's a whole interesting, they're a lot like my mother. I'm like, oh, no wonder this
Oh
felt
yeah.
familiar.
Yeah, yeah, and once you know that, okay, then the deal is this. Then you just congratulate yourself. Like, oh, wow, I figured it out. So I don't have to come back 5 more lifetimes with giving birth to my mother as a daughter, having her as a boss, marrying her, whatever it is. Because I actually believe that's kind of how it works until we bring love into a situation where it isn't. But I will tell you physically, the
Yes,
minute you start to put up boundaries, the
yes,
first place you're going to go is you will feel bad about yourself because you've been programmed that that is selfish. And that is the worst thing any of us want to be called. No, I'm a good person. Yeah, but you don't get to breathe fully. I had a patient once, and she said, I absolutely was brought up to believe that I took up too much oxygen just from breathing. But she had been, it's interesting, her brother, age 2, had died when the mother was pregnant with her.
oh
And so
God,
this imprint was in her, oh my God, I will never be able to heal my mother's grief. When you're born into that container of your mother's grief, then she felt responsible, but there was no way that she could ever make
yeah,
up for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so interesting too. And like I've been working on my fascia and my lymph for probably 2 years. All of a sudden it's releasing because
Yeah.
I've been carrying all of these emotions, all of this programming in my back. And now that I'm like, it's so interesting. It's almost like a three-legged race. Like you have to kind of clear the emotion and then you can, clear the physical. But it's been so fascinating to just observe and experience like, wow, look at what I'm saying to myself, even though in my heart I know this is totally the right thing. Like just how I'm self-sabotage. It's just an amazing, interesting experience to unpack and to see how often I played that pattern out in my life and how that impacted my health.
Yeah. And then what's so great about that, you see, is then all the stuff that we've been taught about aging goes out the window. Because the only reason that we're aging, meaning decrepitude, is that we are holding unfinished business in our tissues. Our fascia, as you know, is semi-solid, almost liquid. It's a crystal, and it is a secondary nervous system. So all the yoga asanas are all related to an organ system. For instance, if we did this and we kind of resisted as we pulled the elbows together and we resisted in and resisted out. If we just do that, you're going to feel it right in your shoulder blades. And that is the small intestine meridian. So we're, literally hydrating the fascia. But any yoga teacher or a good massage therapist will tell you that when they get into certain places in the body, there's often an emotional release, like someone will find themselves weeping or whatever, and then you're just upgrading the system. So the key, I think, and you brought it up, the absolute key is we have to feel, oftentimes it's shame that we feel, and it's
Yes.
not our shame, it's our parents' shame. So Brene Brown says, guilt says I made a mistake. Shame says I am a mistake. And it is the most painful feeling on the planet. And you literally have to feel what that shame is, because women have been shamed and men have been shamed, for heaven's sakes. Now, what are men shamed about? Being men, toxic masculinity. It's like this global
Well,
shame.
their skin color, the pendulum's
Yeah,
flipped. Things they can't even help.
right, right. I just saw this thing. I couldn't believe it. In Canada, no, you cannot apply to medical school if you're a white male.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I just saw that.
So, okay, it's discrimination, but because it's discrimination against a party who previously had privilege, it's
That's
not?
it. Yeah, that's it.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So what we need to see is that this giant parasitic thing works exactly the same way as the narcissist in your home. It's the same thing. And so our job, I mean, I'm not going to take on the giant global behemoth. However, in my own body, I can respond to whatever's going on. And that's where the power is. So you talk about your shoulders. Um, what's really common in midlife women? Frozen shoulder. It hurts like, oh my God, it hurts so much. What do? They put you under anesthesia, they manipulate it, they this and they that. No, no, no. It's just exactly what you said. It is time to let go of the burden. And
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things you can do, like with a tennis ball, against a wall, and you're breaking up the fascia there in the subscapularis, and you have to do all that, but it's still related to some belief that you've got in your mind. One time I had to go to, well, thought I needed to go to this New Year's Eve party, and I didn't want to go.
Mhm.
And I dropped a piece of wood on my left foot, second toe, and I was working with Belinda Womack at the time, and she said, feet are past lives, hands are present life. And it was like this sense of obligation, and whatever the meridian was of the second toe, I don't remember, but every part of the body is bio-symbolic. And sometimes it's so obvious, like a friend who got Meniere's disease. So he can't hear and he's getting dizzy and he's yelling at his wife, I can't hear this. I won't hear this. And age 52, losing his hearing. I
Oh,
can't
wow.
hear this. I won't hear this. Sometimes it's that obvious. And sometimes, and Bruce Wolin wrote this book, It Didn't Start With You, where we inherit the DNA of
Yes.
our past. Yeah.
Yes. I just got that book. That's really funny. I liked Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. What would you do if you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? Shrug, and we don't even realize it. I think a lot of, it didn't start with you. We don't realize that we're carrying the shame, the guilt, even the programming, like being a pleaser. It's so funny I'm engaged to someone 3 years in, but I'm obviously my age. And just relationships are such wonderful mirrors.
Oh
And
my God. You can't do it without a relationship. You
yeah,
cannot do it without a relationship because we think we're working on our stuff.
yes,
Then, and that's why, an intimate relationship is it's the postdoctoral level of spiritual awakening. I mean, anyone can go, do
yeah,
a solo Vipassana yoga retreat where you don't talk for a week. Great. What you do, and those same guys, because I noticed this a lot in the past with that whole guru group, they
yeah.
go home to their wives after their month in India, and they were having the same arguments that they had when they left.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's so fun to be with somebody who was raised, actually, we were born the same year in the same city, but
Love
different
it.
religions, and just reflecting back to me things that it never occurred to me to question. And I'm like, oh, that's actually valid. Like that, I don't know why I do that, but I guess I don't need to keep that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. The programming. So we're in a time, because I want people to know this, we're in a time of ascension. So we have Pluto is at the anaretic degree of Capricorn, 29 degrees. What that means is all these top-down structures inside us and outside us are all crumbling as we move into Pluto into Aquarius on November 19th. So it really doesn't matter what happens with the election. What matters is what happens within us, because you've had to put up boundaries, around your mother or around whatever. And I've had to do that. I've put up boundaries with the entire medical system. I mean, when I get a call from my insurer, you've paid for a medical thing and you can come in for your screening. It's like, I'm not going near you. I only have this in case I'm hit by a bus. I am not participating. So for me, the phrase now is that doesn't apply to me. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But come on, I was the person who was walking through O'Hare in 2022 with no mask. I was the only one. I'd say to myself, how can I be the only one in these throngs of people? First of all,
Hmm.
I knew it wasn't a law and I wanted to breathe. Now,
Yeah.
there's certain areas, like when you got on a plane, you had to have that mask on. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue there because that's just dumb. But
Yeah.
there's all kinds of other places. And then what else has happened? And this is what's so great. We have found each other. We have found the people who didn't fold. We found the ones who, when the thing started, COVID started, and you knew something was wrong. And so you shone your light, and someone else shone their light. And then suddenly, we're getting on Zooms together and we know each other. So now for me, all over the world, I have people who are awake. That's true community, and we can feel each other. I mean, Pierre Corey, that just wonderful ICU doc who worked with Paul Merrick, and he said, I used to read the New York Times every morning and I thought that my profession was this and that, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that wasn't true. Remember him begging the Senate to allow him to save lives with ivermectin, just begging. And then he looked at me at a conference we were at, because if the system's working for you and you're one of those doctors and you're in a New York hospital and you're published everywhere and you're well respected, that's not going to occur to you that all this other stuff's going on. But I always knew this other stuff was going on. So he looks at me and he goes, don't make fun of me. I didn't know. Well, it's like, how could you have known? I'm reading the Flexner report and being a holistic doctor back in the day when if you said the word holistic, they'd come and take your license. So, I was kind of prepared for what was coming. I just was still
Yeah.
shocked by the number of
I
friends still. Yeah.
I didn't know. It honestly took my second child, and when he had some issues, and I started kind of doing my own research because mainstream medicine wasn't cutting it. That's when I learned a lot, and I was really surprised. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's the big wake up call is they're not there to help your child. This is and I think this is what's so shocking to the empath. The agenda of Agenda 2030 and the COVID agenda is depopulation. It's depopulation. So therefore, anyone listening, if you're thinking about having a third child or a fourth, do it. We're going to need those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's and and just and feel your feelings. Don't be afraid to release them.
No, but yeah, and you don't stay in them. Here's what's
Yeah.
great. How do we digest emotions? Okay. Movement, sound, and tears. That's how you do it. You go all the way in. We did this with Ann Shafe. This is like, late 80s, early 90s. Mattresses on the floor. You'd start to feel something. You'd lie down on the floor, have someone sit beside you, not touch you, sit beside you with tissues, and you would just stay with yourself, stay with
Yeah.
what comes up. And then oftentimes people would go into these, raging, like I did, on this whole setup about doing an intervention with one of my partners who was an alcoholic. And Anne looks at me, we're doing the intervention in front of the whole group. And I say to Ellen, when you parked my car when I was in labor with my daughter, it was so moving to me. Because at that time, women doctors were not helping other women. I mean, and the nurses weren't helping the women doctors because you were competition for husbands. And Anne Schaaf looks at me and says, "You're so tired." I lost it. I just lost it. I wept for the pain of all women for about an hour. And then at the end, the whole room is, we're clearing. We were all clearing the morphogenic field of that pain of being tired and not being able to rest. And we were all clearing it. And very often at the end, when you go all the way in like that, you come out laughing. You come out laughing. That's what the body does. It knows how to do it. Just like a gazelle, right? When it's run from a lion and then it's safe, it shakes.
Yeah.
That's what
Or my little dogs when they bark at a big dog. I like smell too. I
oh,
found
yes.
smell helps me move through things and
And
helps
it
me
does. Yeah.
regulate.
Yeah. Going right to the limbic system.
Yeah. Because
Absolutely.
that's the other thing that I've noticed. The more I'm able to regulate, it's so interesting how you can flip that switch, especially in a conflict with another person, going from like feeling defensive and attacked, very fight or flight to, oh, I see what they're doing. Oh, okay, I don't need to respond.
Right. Right. Well, that's the other thing now. Tucker Carlson had the most fun thing in the New York Times because the New York Times got together with Media Matters, and Media Matters is a Soros-funded kind of far-left hate group, and they're the ones who named the Disinformation Dozen with the Center for the Countering of Digital Hate out of London. Well, now they're, working with some of the New York Times reporters, and they went after Tucker with, well, we've noticed 289 pieces of disinformation, exactly what they did with COVID. Well, we've noticed this on your Facebook, and Tucker said, "Is this why you went into journalism? Because you really should be ashamed of yourself. Please
No,
print that."
I've known Tucker, like he's my age. Andrew Breitbart was a friend of mine, like way before he became Republican. Like it's just
Yeah.
funny how I've known a lot. I actually knew these people as friends a long time ago,
I
you know.
love it. Yeah, and look at you, you can see what they're doing now. So I've realized because the New York Times was trying to track me down early on, I wouldn't talk to them, and then finally the reporter went over to the Washington Post and just wrote a hit piece because I wouldn't talk to him. And yeah, I mean just an awful hit piece. And I see how they do it.
Yeah.
And okay, so you've got like a 35-year career with, accolades, and you've helped a lot of people avoid C-sections and hysterectomies and breast removals. And now suddenly I'm demonized. But you watch, that's how they do it. So what happens very often in an individual relationship
Yeah.
is that narcissist in your life will paint you with a bad brushstroke, and outside of the home they're very, very charming oftentimes, and then inside the home it's a completely different thing. So you're worried, oh my god, they're going to turn everyone against me, and they can do it. So that's where you go inside, and you got to rely on God, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a very kind of what you were saying, like you have to be true to your heart. And so if, you used a couple examples, like there are people that I've noticed that I'm like, that doesn't feel right. Like I'm not okay with that. And if I have to pretend like I am, I can't reconcile that within myself. So
Right. Right. Exactly. And for me, one of the most egregious things going on right now is the gender reassignment in minors, in 12-year-olds. And I just learned this because,
That's
that's
very
my,
rapid in Washington State. I mean, they're really getting involved in trying to turn the parent into the enemy.
yes, yes. And I think they did it in California. If you question your child wanting to do a trans reassignment, they'll
Yes.
take your kid away. We did the
Mhm.
same thing in our state of Maine. They have the same law. But what's going to happen when the kid wakes up, age 18, realizes, wait a minute, I'm actually a boy, but now they have a micro penis? Because if you put them on puberty blockers and they don't go through puberty, there's no going back. And what 20-year-old wants a micro penis? Or what girl wakes up and realizes she's not a boy, but she's had her breasts removed?
Yes.
See, I don't mind the trans surgery. I have 3 trans friends. They're great people.
I
They
don't,
know.
I feel like you get to do whatever you want. What really upsets me is breaking up the American family. And also, I feel like there's a reason we don't vote until we're 18. We don't drive until we're 16. I feel like we need to let the frontal lobe develop.
Yeah,
I
and you can't rent a car till you're 25 because
yeah,
they know that
exactly.
the insurance, yeah.
Exactly.
So you're not going to decide your gender. But look at that programming. You're
Yeah.
told your child will commit suicide if you don't
Yeah.
do this, and then you want to become an ally.
Well, and even the HPV vaccine that it has to be
God,
given before puberty, I'm like, what are you turning off? Like that never made sense to me.
never made sense to me. So in 2006 on Oprah, I told people don't use it, don't get it. It's making girls menopausal.
That, yeah, it definitely seems to be contributing to infertility. And, just, I don't know. I'm like, why would you do that? But
Well,
their
as Mary
tactic
Holland
is
from,
crazy.
Children's Health Defense, Merck called it lightning in a bottle because it made up for all their loss of profits with that other drug that they were forced to take off the market. Gardasil came in, and then the woman who was with the CDC who developed it, then she did the revolving door over to work with Merck. And
Yeah.
so we have to understand this is about profits. Just like now, all the big pharma is coming out with all these new cancer drugs. Why? Because now we're getting an epidemic of turbo cancers all over the
Yeah, but
place.
I mean, okay, let's be honest. I think cancer has a lot of root causes, including emotional
Does?
causes. I don't actually think you can vaccinate against cancer.
I don't think so. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, here we are, but each of us individually has so much power over what happens in our bodies. And so the diagnosis itself is a problem. It's a problem. I remember Bernie Siegel reporting on a guy in the cardiac intensive care unit with a deadly cardiac rhythm called a gallop rhythm. The guy overheard them saying he had a gallop rhythm. What he heard in his head is, I'm as healthy as a horse. So he transformed it in his body from his belief system and walked out of there 2 days later. So therefore, as Ryan Cole from Idaho says, now what we have iPad jockeys with wheelie tables, and they come in and they make sure to put your diagnosis in with the CPT code because that's what gets insurance reimbursed. And then you've got your diagnosis, which then you will start behaving as if. It's like with aging. Well, now that I'm 54, it's too late to blah 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 blah. Now that I'm that it's too late to. I mean, we put those things on us. And in Mario Martinez's work with healthy centenarians, they're all future focused, and it doesn't matter if they're 100. And by changing the way they think to centenarian consciousness, they actually extend the telomeres in their cells.
Well, I've been wondering because I have a fascia release blend and I've been obsessed with it and playing with it. We actually got engaged in Positano and did that
Oh,
Path
beautiful.
of the Gods, which was
It,
amazing.
it
And then
is.
we were going to take the bus back, but it was like 107 degrees and the line was really long. And my fiance's like, oh, you can just walk. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Until I realized we're walking 3 miles down steps and my knees get a little grumpy. So anyway, we got back to our hotel and I was like, that wasn't maybe my best choice. But I'm like, wait a minute, I have my fascia release. I'll put it on the front of my knee. I have my lymph, I'll put it on my back. And my knees actually were better than they've ever been. Like the rest of the time, the stairs, I'm like, I think inflammation is misunderstood.
It
Like
is.
I have this new idea. I'll be 56 in a couple weeks, and I'm like, I feel like I can age in reverse. I mean, you look amazing. I feel better in some ways than I have in years.
Of
And
course,
I
because you've
think,
got some, think about it. There's all these things you didn't know. And how
yeah,
did you do? I mean, why would God create us that way? Like just when you get a clue, it's time to leave? No,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I feel like there's more to the story,
There
and
is.
releasing emotions and kind of mobilizing the fascia and just being in integrity really help.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to share?
Um, we've pretty much covered it, but I'll tell you my next thing
Oh,
is going
yay.
to be learning how to heal with biophotonic light. Each of us emits biophotonic light. And Eileen McCusick's work on
I
the
love her.
field tuning. Well, I'm
Yeah.
working with an osteopath who's going to be training us how the heart and the hands are the big um, tuners of the body. And we can all learn to move energy and heal ourselves that way. So I'm excited about that. And yes, products like
Amazing.
yours and my Amata Life. I just want to tell everybody my vaginal moisturizer is the best thing on the market. There's no woman who needs to have dryness or the worst sex of her lives. This stuff is like the goddess just landed on your body. And there's nothing like it out there. And the FDA at the very beginning said it was a medical device, so it had to be registered. They're not saying that anymore. But I remember when I first heard it, I thought, okay, all you guys, you better register that medical device you got going on there. I mean, it's nuts. But anyhow, that's one of the things, that I'm proud that I did to make sure
Yeah.
that that was available for women.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm excited. I'm obsessed with light. I've actually been playing with a lot of light. I've been playing with red light therapy and
Oh, yes.
like I actually want to create kind of an at-home circuit for people because I think, you go to whatever your lymph massage and then you come home and it's like you don't just go to the dentist and not brush your teeth. Like we need things we can do at home. So if you find a tool with light, please share. I have the sonic slider. I love it. I have oils. I play with red light therapy. I really want to empower people to like, you know, be their best selves in a very easy, accessible way.
That is great. Jack Cruz, Dr. Jack Cruz, he's doing incredible work with light. He's a neurosurgeon. And he basically said, we need the sunlight. We
Yeah.
need sunlight. And the red light, he talked about a patient, his father-in-law, I think, fell off a roof. He just had a new knee replacement. And the way he landed is split the tibia. And the way a knee replacement goes, the replacement goes right into the tibia, but he split it and he had to wait for the swelling to go down to get it redone. During that time, he sat in front of a red light 20 minutes 3 times a day. Not only did it completely heal his macular degeneration, it healed of his eyes. It healed the tibia, so he didn't need a new knee. So you're right on it. Right on it. Yeah.
Yeah, let me know because I feel like the combination of light, sound, smell,
Oh, yeah.
I play with color. Like I'm just anything you can find, I'm all in.
Okay, great. Okay, good. I will
Thank
remember
you.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
no, it's
everybody,
so fun to connect.
yeah,
You, as always, are like brilliant and a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just so grateful for everything you shared.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.